Now,
I love it.
let's get down to business here. Last night, I finally sat down and I completed the final boss of Horizon Forbidden
Yeah.
West. And the time is now to finally talk about this game. And like I said, so this is going to be an inspired by Zelda show. So obviously the bulk of the game we're going to be talking about Horizon, but we are going to be also talking about Tears of the Kingdom a bit because I don't know about you, Al, but like when I was playing this game, I found it really hard not to compare this game to Tears of the Kingdom in terms of like an open world sequel and how it structures itself and how it makes itself different and builds upon what came before that. Did you kind of have like the same kind of vibe?
I did. There were some things where I was like, I kind of wish Tears did this, and there were
Mm,
other things where I'm like, I understand why Tears didn't do this. Um, I it's kind of funny. We'll talk about it when we probably get more into like story spoiler stuff. But I feel like the two games are on two opposite spectrums, like kind of
yeah.
extremes. Like one is a lot of showing and implying, and one is of a lot of telling. And
Mm,
it's not everybody is the audience for that. I am personally, but
yeah.
I know not everybody is. So yeah, we'll get more into detail about that. But for the most part, I was like, there's a lot of similarities too. There's a lot of like story beats, like playing gameplay style that is similar. So yeah, I'm excited to
Hmm.
talk about it.
Yeah, well, me too. And I guess before we get going, I will say this. So we're gonna keep I don't know, let's call it the first half of this show, like kind of general. There's not gonna be any spoilers. We will get into spoilers, like in regards to the story, because I feel like that's such an integral part of this game. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll give a big, loud, noisy spoiler warning beforehand when we do. So if you want to dip out then and you haven't played Horizon Forbidden West, please feel free. Come back and listen after you've beat the game. If you're going to play the game. And you should play the game because it's really awesome.
You should. It's so good. It's so good. I love these games so much. And it's like, I feel like they were done dirty the years that they came out.
Yeah, kind of, a little bit.
Yeah.
By the way, okay, I know I said I was done plugging, but I'm never really done plugging. So on our Patreon, which you can sign up for over on patreon.com/spnet, I think I'm losing it, Al. We just did a show about the top 10 Zelda likes of all time, actually.
Mm,
And Horizon Zero Dawn was on my list. So go and check that
nice.
out and get some other good recommendations for, some other games that you can play if you're waiting for the next Zelda to come, because Lord knows when that's going to be. Although I think it's going to be soon. All right, let's talk about this game. So obviously, Horizon Forbidden West is a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, and I think that you kind of mentioned it. There's two trains of thought that you can have when you're making a sequel like this.
Mm-hmm.
One is same world, new gameplay. We know what game did that.
Right.
Two is pretty much identical gameplay, new world, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
route that Forbidden West takes. You don't really explore the old area like at all in this game,
No.
like and I think that the game is better for that actually.
Yeah, I would say that I'll be really honest though. There's a difference because I've only played Zero Dawn once, so re-exploring that world might not have been as hard of a hit as it was between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the
Yeah,
Kingdom. Because I played Breath of the Wild a lot. A lot of people play Breath of the Wild a lot. So exploring a similar world, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it's 100% the same because obviously they had made changes that were enough for me personally to take it to the next level. But
hmm,
having pretty much the same world in Tears kind of hurt it a little bit. Whereas if we did go back, technically in Zero Dawn, the area is Colorado. It's like Colorado 1,000 years in the future, right? So if we were exploring Colorado again, I probably wouldn't have recognized a lot of the spots except for maybe the main towns.
I agree with you, but I will say, like, you know, imagine that we were really imagine we had a Horizon podcast, right? And like
Yeah,
I think that we'd be, or at least I'll speak for me, I would be disappointed if like you returned to that same world and
right.
re-explored that. Now I guess like I always kind of like thought that Horizon Zero Dawn was a much smaller game than Breath of the Wild, and I think it is.
Mhm. It
And I,
is.
and I think
Yeah.
that Forbidden West is also a smaller game than Tears of the Kingdom, even though it's like a huge game.
Yeah, it's much bigger than Zero Dawn, but it's still smaller than Tears in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So I was almost wondering if we were going to be able to go to both areas in this game, like revisit the old areas and like go to the new area. We didn't, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fine because like this
Yep.
game, I have some critiques of Forbidden West, of course, and one of them is like it's almost too big sometimes, but
Yes.
I do, yeah, like I personally appreciated that they were like, okay, instead of relearning some gameplay mechanics, we figure that fans of the first game are going to be somewhat familiar with the second game, or familiar with how everything works, and just want to carry that knowledge over into the second game, and we're going to change the landscape. Which for me, like, I think that works a lot better for an open world game if you're going to do a sequel to have a new open world, because I like. And I know people get upset when I say it, and I hear your comments and I see the reviews or whatever, but like that was like a real big bummer to me about Tears of the Kingdom was re-exploring the same world. I know that it was different, but I don't think it was different enough. And at
Mm-hmm.
least with Forbidden West, it was really different. And again, like one of the really cool things that I love about the Horizon games is in the first game, you're kind of they're hyping you up for like what is Zero Dawn, what's Zero Dawn, and in this
Mm-hmm.
game, while it comes quicker, but they're like they're really hyping up and mystifying the Forbidden West. Like you're gonna get to the Forbidden West, and it feels like a really cool accomplishment. Like when you get there, and you're just kind of like, oh wow, like I'm in the Forbidden West now, and it's very cool.
Yeah.
Where I never quite got that same feeling when I went to the Sky or when I went to the Depths in Tears of the Kingdom, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I understand that feeling. I will say that yeah, being in a new area was cool. In Forbidden West, obviously it takes place west of Colorado, so Utah, Nevada, and California. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is a new kind of region area, etc. But I do think that it also still kind of looked a lot alike compared to Zero Dawn. Like it still looks similar. It still was very deserty. That's a very deserted I don't know, desertous is the right word.
Desertous,
Deserty area.
sandy.
And until you get to obviously the far west. But so it still kind of looked a lot of the same. It just what really changed it was the people that lived there. It didn't
Yeah.
have in the original area there was the Karja. That's they rule that area. In the west, it's the Tanakh. So that was the change that I was like, okay, this is a cool change. I appreciate that there's different culture, there's different visuals, but the landscaping was very similar to me.
Yeah, definitely in some areas, you're right. It was like very foresty, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, like you said, like there was enough like like San Francisco. I thought was awesome, like the
Yeah, San Francisco
tropicalness.
was really cool.
The desert was great, and I don't remember. Like to me, like so in between the Forbidden West and where you start the original like Zero Dawn game, there's an area called No Man's Land. That to me felt pretty similar, but I think once
Yeah.
you kind of got out of No Man's Land, then it kind of was a little bit more new. It felt a little bit more new, and mostly that No Man's Land part is like part of the prologue. So like I was okay with like it looking and feeling a little bit like again, like I'm okay with like some stuff being familiar, right? It's just when the
Hmm.
whole world is familiar, then it's just kind of like this was a little bit of a swing and a miss for me.
For you. Yeah, I understand that. I want to validate that for some people because a lot of Hyrule, at least the overworld, the surface is very similar. But I do feel like they did enough that I did feel like and I'm replaying the game and I still feel like I'm exploring new territory. There's parts where I'm like, okay, I'm on the surface. I don't want to be here because I've been here before. But then I'll get to the caves and the depths
Hmm.
and the sky and the volcanoes all dried up. So it's in a way I think it's Tears could have gone a little bit more. We could have gone to a different world. But in the end, I think it also would have been very similar still, like it was between Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. Like, yeah, we could have explored a different world, but probably they would have very similar climates. They would probably have a snow area, a desert area, a volcano area, because that's kind of how Zelda is.
Yeah.
So I feel like even though Forbidden West did take us to a new area, it still felt similar. And I think if Tears had taken us to a new area, it still would have felt similar to Breath of the Wild.
You know, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I agree partly with what you're saying. I think if we had gotten a new Hyrule or a new area in Tears of the
Mhm.
Kingdom, you're probably right. There's going to be your snow. There's going to be your fire area. There's like all of those staples are going to be there because that's just environmental storytelling. But I don't. for me, this is what it boils down to, right? Like, would you rather have a new world or the same world but changed? And for me, my answer is always going to be a new world for an open world game. Like, I value that a lot,
Hmm.
so I would have taken that new world, even if it's gonna, like as you correctly point out with Forbidden West, like some of it does feel familiar, but new enough, right? Like,
Yeah,
and then like there's lots of the parts of Forbidden West map that are completely new and complete, like really these amazing
there is.
set
Yeah.
pieces. So
Hmm.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree. It's not that I don't agree, but I feel like that doesn't do it for me personally. And but like each and every person has that own different sliding scale, right? Where it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is too familiar, but like so
Yeah. I agree. I'm cool with that. With us agreeing to disagree a little bit.
I can't believe that before we started the show, I was like, Al, how well do you know me? Who's one of my favorite singers ever? And she is talking Selena. We didn't even figure out who the Selena is, did we?
OG Selena. People know who that is.
No, does anybody know who OG? When I hear Selena, I think
Yeah,
Selena
they
Gomez.
do. She died really tragically.
Okay, not Selena Dion.
Not to get like really like down on this show.
God, this is like the third time she's no sold my Selena Dion joke. That's a funny joke. All right, let's continue here. So I want to talk about the story specifically later when we get to the spoiler section. But this story in this game is awesome.
It's
It's
great.
awesome, and but it's told awesomely. Like, it's structured in a way that makes sense. Things happen one after the other after the other. The sequence of events and like the pacing of the story is everything I wanted from Tears of the Kingdom, and they refused to give us. And they were so committed to, like, you could do the story in any order. You could do anything in any order that you want, that it hurt the game for me. And I think you would agree with that. Like, this game proves like just the tiniest bit of structure goes a long way, because you can still do your main story quest, but you have like a gluttony of other side quests that you can do, other options, that like things to do, right? Like, you don't have to, if you don't want to, do the main quest. And like, there's so much to do in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild that I just like, sometimes it boggles my mind that they didn't go that road. And it would have been really easy to, because both Horizon, Forbidden West, obviously specifically, and Tears of the Kingdom have these like amazing set piece moments, but
Mhm.
like it's just in Tears of the Kingdom, I felt like it was kind of like taken away when you got to the climax, because I was like, oh, here we go, the same cutscene and the same thing. Where Horizon, I felt like it kept on kind of building on top of each other. So I really, really, really loved the way that the story was structured here, and that's one thing that I think Tears of the Kingdom could have really used.
Yeah, I personally still feel like the lack of structure and linearity, that there's a consequence to as much freedom as they gave us in Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, I'm replaying it now and I'm taking it slowly. I'm taking it as in order as I possibly can. Like, I'm looking for all the clues, and that's going to tell me like exactly the order that I'm supposed to play this game, so that the story is sequential the way it's meant to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I should have to work that hard, to be honest. I
No.
feel like the clues are there, but I'm like, my eyes are peeled for them. And obviously a first time player is not going to be that focused on trying to get the thing in order, because they're like, "Oh, I have freedom. I can go do whatever I want."
Mm-hmm.
Um Forbidden West does this thing where they do let you go to any area that you want. So pretend they have divine beasts. They do have like these main phenomena that you need to go check out. And so you do have the choice to go to whatever one you want, but they heavily hint that maybe if you're not a higher level, it's not a good idea to go there,
Yeah.
because it's going to be hard. They also have the different areas be different enough that they coincide to the story in the end, but separately they don't
Mm-hmm.
hurt the fact if you do them out of order. There's different people involved. There's different
It's very a link between
situation.
worlds, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's done where they give you some freedom, but they still have it structured in a way that towards the end the story is still told in a linear fashion and it makes sense. Versus giving you a whole bunch of freedom, everything gets out of order. You have to try really hard to see the hints to do
Yeah.
it in order, etc. And then also There's something I really wanted to talk about is the continuity. They have massive amounts of
Yes.
continuity between Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. It's seamless. It's seamless. You don't have to guess about anything. And sometimes people get offended and are like, we don't need it explained to us. We don't need the story like drilled into our heads. But sometimes, especially with this story for this game,
Like
it's
a
very
direct
complicated.
sequel? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very complicated that I do need it because it's very scientific too. I do need it explained to me, and I do like how they go about it. You can ask questions, you can decide how much information you want. If you don't want that much information, you want to guess for yourself, go for it. But you can get all the information that you want from each character as you go.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the fact that it's seamless, and they give you a really really fantastic like a video intro at the very beginning that kind of helps you understand and get caught up, because it's been a long time between games, just like it was for Breath of the Wild and for Tears of the Kingdom. So that's really good. They have like a complete archive of like who these characters are, and give you some Cole's notes and stuff like that. It's a very good system that they do, and they help you along, definitely, like get the most of your experience and the most of your gameplay and whatnot. And the story is told in a very like it really is. It's very seamless, and it's very easy to pick up right where you left off. So I appreciated that as well. And I know that some people have taken umbrage with our comments where it's like, it feels like nobody remembers the events of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But like it really feels like everything you did in the first game mattered in Forbidden West. Like, people know who you are, they hear legends about you, your deeds matter, and you're building on top of what you've already done. So yeah, it feels like that was something I really appreciated as well, particularly in Forbidden West.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I think overall the story was structured a lot better. I appreciated the new world versus staying in the old world. And people listening are probably gonna infer that I think that Forbidden West is a much better game than Tears of the Kingdom. I don't actually know if I would agree with that necessarily, because Forbidden West does have its faults for sure. But it does some things that I think an open world sequel should do, and I think Tears of the Kingdom should have done. And those are really important things that it does.
Yeah. And to be fair, they are two completely different games. Like, the amount of story that they have to tell you in Forbidden West is because it's a massive story, and it's like, it's really messes with your mind. It makes you think, whereas Zelda, you're like, this is a Zelda adventure. Like, I like the plot twist that we got in Tears of the Kingdom. I just there's some points where I was like, it's kind of obvious what the plot twist is, whereas in Forbidden West, you had no idea what was coming, and when it did, you were blown away. And although I will say that there are, like you mentioned, story beats in Tears that I was also blown away by, there's just a couple things I was able to guess because of getting things out of order. But like, yeah, it's hard to get out of like the comparison trap between the two games, but they are two completely different games. I do like them each in their own bubbles. It's just that they both happen to be the same thing, where they're a direct sequel to a massive open world game. So it's kind of hard not to compare them a little bit. I just want people to understand that we're not saying Tears is an awful game because it didn't do what Forbidden West did. Obviously.
Yeah, no, that's not the inference at all, but it does do some things that I wish Tears of the Kingdom had done, and I think if Tears of the Kingdom had done these things, I'd like Tears of the Kingdom a lot more than I do. And as we get kind of closer to the 1-year anniversary, we'll really dive in and get back into Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, like there were some things that I wish Tears had done differently, and it really kind of shone a light on those things playing Forbidden West, because Forbidden West does those things.
Right.
Now, again, would I say it's a better game than Tears of the Kingdom? I don't think. I don't know. I don't think so. But like,
I don't think so.
I also expect a lot more from Zelda because of the pedigree of the series, right? Like, and this is a second entry into a new series, so I feel like I also have a little bit more leeway for Horizon. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. So yeah. Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this clip and want to see more of the Zelda Cast, make sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and subscribe. There are over 200 episodes in the vault that will provide you with hundreds of hours of Zelda content for you to enjoy. You can listen to us when you're on a walk, fighting Ganon, trying to sleep, whatever. And if you want to see these shows as they happen, make sure to head over to twitch.tv/The Zelda Cast, where you can watch our beautiful faces talk about Zelda every single week. Don't miss out, and we'll see you next time.